Hello and welcome to the Business of What's Next. I'm your host, Matthew Shipp, and today I'm here with Rebecca Kay, founder of PIC. This show explores how ambitious leaders cut through the noise, decide what matters, and sets up their business for what's next. Rebecca, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Matthew. It's great to be here.
So let us know a little bit about how PIC came to be, what kind of business it is, and I believe, and how you founded this. What led up to this business?
Sure thing. Really happy to share. So we are PIC Operating Group, and really at the end of the day, big picture, we are a value creation operating partner firm. And what that means is we start with the desired outcome and the desired future state in mind, and then we work our way backwards instead of coming together with like an immediate solution. And this is something that was born out of close to 15 years working across 6 different industries, wearing a variety of hats from, leading strategic projects for multi-billion-dollar Fortune 100 organization to, working for startups, to being their chief of staff and some other really unique opportunities. But in all of those opportunities, I was always I found myself in positions where there was some type of fuzzy, hairy problem or outcome that needed to happen, and not really anyone could figure out how to get from point A to point B. And it didn't matter if it was an HR problem, a cost savings initiative, an innovation platform, in a variety of other type of projects. I was always the person that said, okay, let's start with the end in mind. And then what are all the things that we need to look at to identify what the current state is? And then what are the gaps and the friction points? And how do we figure out what a specific plan for that specific organization, what their constraints are and their priorities? And a lot of times I saw what would happen is the opposite. People would begin with the solution in mind, the technology, the platform, the role, the process, and they would start with what they wanted to jam into the current state of reality instead of flipping the order. And I would always approach it from the other side because I was like, this isn't going to work unless we are obsessively honest about reality, that people are not aligned and rowing in the same direction, and that we are allowed to course correct and only select and do actions that are going to actually move the needle in the right direction. And so I did that and consistently in every single project I did, and I loved it. And I found there's a huge need for it. What my firm does and what we did in every industry. I don't care if you sell software products or if you're selling a widget out of a factory or you're selling Boeing airplanes or, you're doing financial investments in private equity or venture capital, that sort of thing. Everybody needs this type of value creation and looking at any action you take to improve sales, improve customer experience, improve operations, and shepherd companies through major transitions like successions, layoffs and reorganization, pain points for organization, new markets, going through a sale, an M&A transaction type experience, and any number of, hey, we want to grow from a $10 million company to a $50 million company. That way you do that and you go through all those situations like very smoothly is that process I talked to you about earlier where we flip it on its head. And so after doing that on repeat for probably close to 100 different situations in 6 different industries and 10 plus different roles and having and hundreds of people and hundreds of different, situations, I said, I'm on to something and I want to build something that we focus on this and we build value that is quantifiable with a return on investment, but also builds the right way. We're not chasing dollars for dollars' sake. We're not going to sacrifice what is good for the business, in the sake of the short-term turnaround 5-year plan. You have to return 3x on investment. We want to do what's in the best interest of the customer, the business, so the people are there, and build the right way so it doesn't burn people out and it lasts for generations. And so that's what we do that's unique. And the way we do it is differently. And the results are, our goal is to build world-class companies. Ourselves first as a world-class company, but anyone we work with to be best in class.
Wow. I mean, this is great. You've already used terms that I love to hear. The alignment piece and working from the goal. What is your goal? And then start from the beginning and work back towards that. I like how you put it was creating value by starting at the what's your goal, not what's
Hmm.
the solution. And you're right. A lot of companies do come in think come in with just the solution in mind and ram it through because it's they don't have to, and often they don't even think about testing it. So what there's a lot here. We go on. There's a lot of alignment here between us. So obviously, when you're coming to a company, what do you tell them in the shortest terms when they come to you? Like, we need help with some stuff. We're not exactly sure what it is you're doing for us. What do you tell them?
That's a great aspect. I think that's something that with what we do that is a little bit hard in the market because people like really clean boxes to narrate and put you in like you are this provider for this
Hmm.
type of outcome, right? Are you a sales solution provider? Are you an operational person? Are you a chief of staff? Right, whatever it is, they want that box because it's
Yeah.
neater, right? To fit on
Hmm.
to understand what they need and and downsize it. But what I say is I can tell you very clearly what functions they play in. These are the type of outcomes we work in. And really, it starts with a conversation of understanding where they are, where are they growing? Are they coming out of $5 million and no longer bootstrapping and just kind of working very fluidly, no longer works for everyone? Is it we're up to like 15 million and hey, we're doing really well. We've got some basic structure down, but we want to go to that next level. We want to see getting to that $50 million mark. Well, what does that mean? That means increasing your new customer experience and increasing the number of new customers, improving your customer experience, making sure everything is running really smoothly. And it really depends on it's an assessment of what are their top 3 goals or so, what is the most achievable based on their constraints, their resources, the timing? What do they have? Like, what are the pieces that we can build with, the tools and resources? And then from there, it's pretty simple of prioritization and rack and stacking based on what's going to be the highest return on investment and the easiest to achieve. We work
Yeah.
smarter, not necessarily harder. And so I usually do an assessment. And then based on that, it's a mutual conversation of, hey, Mr. Client or Mrs. Client, this is what you've told me or us. And based on that, do you agree with, these are the levers and based on that, this is what I suggest we approach. And then we just take it from there and we take it a step at a time.
Okay. That sounds very familiar. I've had the same thing as people come to me and I was like, well, what I can help you with depends upon your problem. And when do you said you evaluate each piece? How do you go about when you first work with a new client, or yeah, when you first work with a new client? What's the first steps you tell them to take to help them uncover? So you help PIC helps them uncover hidden opportunities within the business and their operations.
Yeah, no, great question. There's 2 basic things we look for. We look at what is the current point they are in the cycle of business. Are they growing aggressively? Are they operating sustainably? Or are they in the middle of a transition change, right?
Hmm.
And from there, we can say, okay, based on what kind of outcomes you're looking for and what's going on, do you need to find more customers for organic top line growth? Do you need to do a better job of retaining your existing customers? Because it's so easy to lose folks after you worked really hard to gain new sales, lose them in operations and delivery? Or is it, things are clunky between getting new customers and then operating. And so things are not really smooth and operating smoothly. So there processes, tools, or people problems we need to figure out. Are the right people in the right seats? Do you have the right software or do you have too many software solutions and you need to simplify? Do you need to add something? Are your processes not actually really well documented, understood, and followed, or are they not effective, right? And there's a bunch of things that go into that, that you're in operations and so on and so forth. And then also, is your vision and mission clear, right? Like is the leadership very clear in where they're going, who they are, and and that's like where it all begins, right? Do we know who we are, what we do, what does success look like? And understanding all that based on what is the current environment and stage the business is, how big it is, and what their biggest areas of opportunity. And for example, if a business owner is like, "Hey, we want to go into a new market because we want new sales," but they're not executing well on what they've already got going on. Their churn rates are too high. Their growth numbers are average or below average. We would suggest you need to go back and fix what isn't working on the foundation because you can't run on a broken foot. And so our job is to not to squelch passion and excitement and
Yeah.
people that want to go forward and build something great, because I'm the same way. But we also need to be very respectful, but very truthful about reality, because if you don't have a good foundation and you're not able to do well with whatever your starting point is, you're not going to grow well. It's going to lead to burnout. It's going to lead to unhappy customers. It's going to lead to a poor reputation. And those are the kiss of death. Sometimes it's a little slower than others for companies. And your
Yeah.
priorities have to be in the right order, right?
hmm Oh,
And
yeah. Yeah.
clarity has to be there.
So you,
So,
you brought up many different points, possibilities, bottlenecks, for instance, of companies could potentially have, and I'm sure a lot of them you've worked with, and same with me, have multiple bottlenecks and multiple ideas and multiples of things. How my approach is obviously trying to get them to focus on what's going to have the most impact on their business within the next year, the 2 years,
mhm,
and I do that because I think you similar is there are, like I said, these companies are kind of finally looking up, done with the bootstrapping, and they're
yeah.
just it's hit with a tidal wave of all the things they have to do. And so I designed something to help them kind of funnel that focus at those times. What do you do to help evaluate? What do you go in? How do you evaluate? I mean, other than is it I do personally, I do individual expert interviews to kind of see where the patterns lie. Is yours more? Do you have a different approach, or how would you go about approaching that?
Yeah. So the way I would approach it is I would take a brain dump of the key stakeholders, list out everything they think is important or anything that's painful. And then, I will take some solo time based on what is in front of me, based on their industry, based on their customer base, based on all the things that I can publicly gather and what I know about from the initial conversation, and then put together a framework of prioritization to potentially solve. And then, I work with the leadership layer first and making sure we're aligned. And then there might be additional interviews that I might need to do to collect more information or data. A lot of it's understanding what gaps exist, and understanding what information I still need to capture to be able to make a solid recommendation based on the data, facts, my experience, their prioritization, their specific situation, and it's highly tailored to them.
Okay.
So I have a very specific process and framework that I have developed over many, many years of doing this with
hmm
lots of folks, and every project I've ever done pretty much has this type of framework to make sure we're approaching it and solving it in systems thinking. But it never looks the same because it's specifically tailored to get the results,
Yes.
right? I don't start out with, I saw so many times and drove me nuts. Organizations will spend millions and millions of dollars on buying into a system or program that's supposed to get them results, but they miss something really essential, which is it is not the system that gets you results. It's that you take the system as a guideline and then you take it as a best practice and you tailor it and you adjust it to make sure you're
hmm
getting the outcome. And people that don't do that or don't get that concept or can't execute to it can lose millions and millions of dollars because they they tie themselves to the system and make they work for the system. They don't make the system work for them.
Okay. Yeah, it's definitely I found that what you're saying is also that the team that helps you kind of discover within the system is also very integral. It might be systems, but system doesn't run without your team.
Yep.
And I think a lot of companies that do something similar forget to bring in the team. They make it ask them and stuff, but when it comes to actually boiling down what it is, they tend to be your best consultants. You've already hired your best consultants. In
Mhm.
some cases, when it comes to getting to the knowledge of how to do something, you just have to present the problem and let them guide them to be the experts that they are. Hey, are you spinning your wheels trying to figure out what will really boost your business's bottom line? At Emberry Solutions, our Profit Priority Workshop is here to cut through the noise. We help you zero in on what truly matters, aligning your team, optimizing your processes, and magnifying your profits. Imagine your business running smoother than ever, with every decision and effort leading straight to increased profits. That's what focusing on the right priorities can do. Ready to boost your efficiency and profits? Visit Emberry Solutions and let's start making your business work smarter. At Emberry Solutions, we take your business from bottlenecks to breakthroughs. I think we talked about earlier is we were looking for the signals and the metrics you look and to measure. How do you go about measuring those metrics?
Well, I think, every organization, you have some basic metrics that you need to do based on what you're solving, right? Like rate of new customer acquisition, new customers per month.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, net promoter score on how many people would recommend your
Oh,
customers
okay.
to another one.
Yeah.
The churn rate, time to delivery if you're in your operations. Like when did you say you were going to deliver something? And then did you deliver it on time? And then quality percentage. Those are some very basic. I mean, there's way more depending on the industry and specific problem, but those are some of I would say if I had under 10 metrics for the specific areas we look at. And then of course there's a bunch of financial metrics, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
how well is your margin? What's your profit? What's your revenue? What's your burn rate? Or, what are you spending on operations? And making sure that you understand for that industry what does healthy look like? What does exceptional look like? And then
Yeah.
also where are they at? And what matters for what you're trying to solve? Because one of the things you don't want to do is you got to start somewhere, and you don't want to overwhelm your client. So you don't want to boil the ocean because then it's impossible to get anything done. So
Yeah.
you start and you build out something really well in a specific area and grow from there. Sometimes we start in sales. Sometimes we start in customer success. Sometimes it's an operational issue. Sometimes it's just advisory to the senior leadership. And then you work out from there. But it all goes towards the same direction, which is getting the desired outcome, which is
Okay.
growth, growth and healthy and successful movement to that next desired stage.
When you first start working with a company, what patterns do you notice right away, especially when they have a desired outcome in mind versus what's really needed?
It just really depends. I think on some of the big corporations, it can be a bit of the right hand doesn't know what the left hand knows.
Hmm.
So, one group might be doing something and the other ones don't. A lot of times it can be lack of leadership. Like, what is actually the plan? What's the source of truth? Where are we going? I think for a lot of really ambitious, highly energetic entrepreneur founders, they get a bit of shiny ball syndrome where one, they get excited and they want to move on to something new and exciting instead of seeing through and finishing what needs to be done to build their foundation well. I could go on, but there's a couple examples.
I was going to ask you what do leaders tend to get stuck on, but I think you nailed that.
I would say I can go on to that one if
Yeah,
you want me to.
sure.
I would say a lot of leaders they become leaders because they're great at something foundational, right? They're great
Mhm.
at being a great salesperson, or they're great at operations, or they're great at, business development, that sort of thing. And one of the things tend to get stuck, especially a founder-led company, is that they like to still have their hands very down and in, sometimes when they don't need
Hmm.
to. And so
Yeah.
they sometimes can unintentionally block their team's growth opportunities because
Hmm.
they like something, but they're also afraid to lose up control because of quality risk. And there is a way to train folks and transition things to where you're still delivering quality without breaking the system or really hurting your customer experience. But that has to be done very sensitively and very
Yeah.
intentionally and very well thought out to make sure that
Yes.
actually happens well.
Yeah. It said you're supposed to, as an owner, you're supposed to slowly replace yourself
Hmm.
within the business and step out. And I found that I find that what you're saying is some people almost do it subconsciously. They don't even realize. They're
Yeah.
like, yes, I need to let go. I need this person to take this thing over. And you look at what they're doing, and they're like, you're not doing it yet.
No.
Kind of a founder syndrome a little bit. Like
Hmm.
they've bootstrapped and they've hung on to keep this model going. And now that they're bringing more people in, being those responsibilities, they need to relinquish some of those responsibilities and be the consistent and constant teacher, instead of the
Absolutely.
doer at this point.
Yeah, I absolutely couldn't agree more. I think it is out of a good place. Like
Hmm.
they care. Reason the business has been successful most times is because there is that passionate hands-on founder. But there comes a point where it no longer is an additive thing, becomes, an issue. But one of the things that I like to do with people who like to hang on to a lot of control, even at the detriment of the growth, is,
Hmm.
we can always change our mind. We can always
Yep.
reverse course. You don't have, because you go in this direction today doesn't mean in a few months it has to be the same. Let's test it out. Let's try it out. Let's try it for a small piece and see how it goes and build from there.
Hmm.
Um, that usually helps, I think, some of that transition.
Okay. Yeah, I think it does. And then, oh boy, I've got a great question. I want to work down to that. So then, what would you say is if you could give a piece of advice to a CEO who feels kind of overextended at that point, what would it be?
I would ask them first why do they feel overextended? And it would also depend on I can't really it really depends on their specific
Mhm.
situation. It could be that they're too involved in execution and they haven't built the framework to build the right systems and processes and tools and training and clarity on making sure that everybody knows what their job is, as well as everyone knows where everything is, or if they don't know, they know how to find out, right? Like those standard operating procedures, those where is the what's the framework for everything, where everything exists? Are they stressed out because they have everybody coming to them for all the answers and direction? Have they not given that's so that'd be the first thing. The second thing is there not a clear delegation of authority, meaning who gets to make what decisions
Mhm.
and also who provides buy-in, who provides inputs, but who is the final responsible party, accountable party. There's a really great document that usually takes a lot of time, but it's called a RACI that I would highly recommend people look into for clarity for who owns what decisions and functions.
Mhm.
So I would say those two pieces would be where I would start. And then also, does that founder have they carved up enough time to reflect and rest? Because if you don't have time and you're part of a big part of what you do when you are leading is no longer being that individual contributor, but it's your strategic and it's your vision and it's your energy and it's the emotional intelligent piece and the wisdom. And wisdom does not come from burning the candle at both ends all the time. There are times you need to hustle and there are times you need to be, nose to the grindstone, but having the wisdom to say, okay, I can put this away for now, or I can let that person handle this piece because I have to focus on this. Because if I don't focus on this and I don't take care of myself, and the ability to reflect and rest, because that provides creativity, problem solving, and wisdom, which are essential to be a good leader.
Absolutely. I think one of my pieces for success, I know I've done a good job, is when I have the leader saying, hey, this has allowed me to step back. This has allowed me to kind of, take a week off to deal with other real things and not worry about if the business is going to burn down while I'm away. So
Yeah,
that's kind of, yeah.
absolutely.
And I'm sure you've heard the same. Uh,
Yeah. I would also encourage them if they're looking ahead to either eventually, I know like maybe you feel this way and I definitely feel this way. Like I love what I do. Building PIC and being a part of PIC is like my life's work. Other
yeah.
than my children, my family, right?
Yeah.
It is my it is the way that I am able to bring my purpose and meaning and vision for helping to make the world a better place into reality. It is that
Mhm.
vehicle. But it's very hard for me to envision a time when I would not be at the helm of what I'm building. But there
Mhm.
will come a time, whether it's through succession with a new leader, selling your company, having somebody that comes after you to lead that managing partner or CEO role, or you do an employee stock, ESOP. There's so
Yeah.
many options to, you know, go to that next stage. But when that happens, whether it's you're handing it off to another employee or, another leader internally, you're hiring externally, you're selling your company or doing a
Mhm.
minor, there's so many opportunities when it comes to deals, who you sell it to, how you structure the deal. That's a whole other podcast
Yeah.
with other folks. But regardless, there will be nothing but good outcomes if you learn how to do what we're talking about, getting yourself out of the day to day. Because
Mhm.
if you plan to transition it to another person or, have that succession planning, it's going to leave your team in a really good place and they will feel really comfortable and that next leader will be set up to win regardless. Right. But on the other side, this can be the difference of millions and millions of dollars if you do sell, because one of the things buyers look for, talking to brokers, talking to people that do this M&A advisory type work, having a business that runs without the buyer and isn't buyer dependent for sales, customer concentration, and being involved in day the business and it's set up to run really well without the owner being so much day to day is a huge selling point, or a huge from as I was saying, like from somebody who's run operations and projects and things for many years. That will make everything much smoother, but it will also put more dollars in the pocket of somebody or an organization that's trying to sell and be a higher value.
Right. Well, this wouldn't be a podcast about what's next for business if I didn't ask you what's next for your business.
Oh my goodness. Well, Matthew, I think we are continuing to add clients and deliver well. And my goal right now is to just do what we do really, really well and talk to great people such as yourself, making great relationships and just doing the best we can and bringing our best work and so much
Mhm.
care and energy to help other folks build well and, come out with those positive desired outcomes. And we'll see where it goes from there. That's where I'm going. That's what's next for me, is just
That's great.
continue to build what we're doing now.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, great answer. Is anything coming up for PIC, or where can
Yeah,
people find you? Where if they want to talk to you more?
absolutely. Well, you can always find us on LinkedIn. We have the PIC Operating Group page on LinkedIn, or my own personal page under Rebecca K. We have our website, performanceimprovementconsultants.com. You can reach out to me, Rebecca with 2 C's, at picfirm.com. So that's picfirm.com. And then I'll be speaking at a couple things in the next coming year. One is, I believe it's with the Program Management Institute in June. There's a regional virtual conference. Reach out to me if you're interested. That's more corporate folks focused. And then I have actually today somebody contacted me out of the blue for a pretty nice opportunity in March to speak for International Women's Day for an industry event here in the Midwest. But more to come on that. That hasn't been solidified yet, so I don't want to give more away, but more to
Mhm.
come. I'm excited to talk to more folks and hopefully help other people build well.
Yeah, that's great.
So
All right.
thank
So
you.
I really thanks again. I really liked how you said you came from with companies going from their goal, the data you put into this, the evaluation to like how you have a million problems, and you're speaking to me, and my passion is helping these companies focused on down what's most important, what they need to, what's going to be most impactful for them right now to not only achieve that goal but achieve future goals. And just the insights you've had on leadership and you've shared with us today has really been great. And I just say thanks a lot for being on the show. This has been very informative, and I'm really glad to see that more of this style of help is actually finding its way to the Midwest and the United States. It's kind of a new thing. It really this approach really is, and I'm glad to see it's here.
For sure. It's been such a pleasure to talk to you. It's always fun to talk to other folks who do what we do. You do a little differently than mine, but I think you bring so much value if you're able to help people get unstuck and get their operations and processes and systems in the right order, because that is the machine that makes everything run. So
Absolutely.
good work.
All right, Rebecca, thanks a lot. Hey, are you spinning your wheels trying to figure out what will really boost your business's bottom line? At Emberry Solutions, our Profit Priority Workshop is here to cut through the noise. We help you zero in on what truly matters, aligning your team, optimizing your processes, and magnifying your profits. Imagine your business running smoother than ever, with every decision and effort leading straight to increased profits. That's what focusing on the right priorities can do. Ready to boost your efficiency and profits? Visit Emberry Solutions and let's start making your business work smarter. At Emberry Solutions, we take your business from bottlenecks to breakthroughs.